Crescent Street was always quiet, but lately, the silence felt oppressive. My name is Emily, and I've lived here all my life. The tree-lined avenues and friendly neighbors made it feel safe, until the disappearances began. It started with Mrs. Thompson's cat, then Mr. Garcia went missing, and last week, the Millers didn't show up to the community picnic. Whispers of a shadowy figure lurking at night spread through the town like wildfire. One evening, as I walked home from my part-time job at the cafe, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The streetlights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows on the pavement. I quickened my pace when I noticed a strange package on my doorstep. Hesitant, I picked it up and brought it inside. Under the kitchen light, I unwrapped the brown paper to reveal a small wooden box, intricately carved but stained with something dark. My heart pounded as I lifted the lid. Inside lay a gruesome arrangement, a collection of severed fingers, meticulously placed in a circle around a single, bloodied key. A note read, "Will you be the one to unlock the truth?" Horrified, I dropped the box, the contents spilling across the table. Panic set in as I realized the fingers wore rings, wedding bands, signets, belonging to my missing neighbors. I stumbled back, reaching for my phone to call the police, but the power went out, plunging the house into darkness. A chilling whisper echoed from the hallway, "Emily, I need your help." I froze, recognizing the voice. It was Mr. Garcia, but it sounded distorted, agonized. Gripping a kitchen knife, I edged toward the hallway. Shadows swirled at the edge of my vision. Was I imagining things? Suddenly, a figure lunged from the darkness, and I slashed instinctively. The knife met only air. The figure vanished, leaving behind a trail of bloody footprints leading to the basement door. My hands trembled as I stared at the bloody footprints. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I had to know what was happening. Summoning courage, I descended the creaking steps into the basement, the air thick with a metallic scent. The dim light from my phone cast eerie shadows on the damp walls. At the bottom, I found a makeshift shrine adorned with photographs of the missing neighbors, each marked with crimson X's. Candles flickered around grisly souvenirs, locks of hair, personal items, and worse. In the center stood a large, blood-stained table with restraints. My stomach churned at the sight of dark stains splattered across the floor. A soft sobbing broke the silence. I followed the sound to a corner where a figure was huddled. "Mr. Garcia?" I whispered. He lifted his head, revealing hollow eyes and a face etched with terror. "Emily, you have to leave," he croaked. "He's coming back." Before I could respond, heavy footsteps echoed from above. The basement door slammed shut, and a lock clicked into place. Panic surged through me. I helped Mr. Garcia to his feet, but he was weak, barely able to stand. "There's a hidden passage," he muttered, pointing to a bookshelf. We scrambled toward it, but a tall figure emerged from the shadows, a man wearing a butcher's apron, smeared with fresh blood, his face obscured by a grotesque leather mask. "Going somewhere?" he snarled, brandishing a gleaming meat cleaver. I pushed Mr. Garcia behind me, gripping the knife tightly. The killer advanced slowly, his eyes glinting with malice through the mask. "I've been watching you, Emily," he said. "You were special." He lunged at me, and I dodged, slicing at his arm. He roared in pain, momentarily stunned. Seizing the opportunity, I grabbed a jar from a nearby shelf and smashed it over his head. The glass shattered, and he staggered back, giving us enough time to locate the hidden latch behind the bookshelf. We slipped into a narrow tunnel as the killer regained his footing, his laughter echoing behind us. The tunnel led us to a crawl space beneath the neighborhood. The air was cold and damp, but we pressed on, the killer's distant footsteps spurring us forward. "There's an exit ahead," Mr. Garcia whispered, his breath ragged. We emerged into an abandoned shed at the edge of Crescent Street. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The killer stood in the doorway, blocking our escape. "You can't run from destiny," he growled. Desperate, I noticed a can of gasoline and a box of matches on a shelf. As the killer advanced, I kicked the gasoline toward him, the liquid spilling across the floor. "Get back!" I shouted, striking a match. His eyes widened behind the mask. "You wouldn't dare," he sneered. "Watch me," I retorted, tossing the match. Flames erupted, engulfing the doorway. The killer screamed, thrashing as the fire consumed him. I grabbed Mr. Garcia, and we stumbled out the back, collapsing on the grass as sirens wailed in the distance. The police arrived, and the fire was extinguished, but they found no trace of the killer's body, only the charred remains of his mask. Investigations revealed a network of tunnels beneath Crescent Street, leading to the homes of all the victims. The horrifying truth emerged: the killer had been living among us, unseen, using the tunnels to kidnap his prey. Weeks later, life began to return to normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. One night, a package arrived on my doorstep, a familiar wooden box. Inside was the bloody key and a new note: "You unlocked the truth, but the game isn't over." My blood ran cold. The killer was still alive, and he wasn't finished with me. As shadows danced outside my window, I realized this was only the beginning. The butcher of Crescent Street would return, and next time, I might not escape.